Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for being with us. Tonight, a Windsor woman is opening up about an unsettling experience at Adventure Bay. Jennifer LaGrassa has more on what happened and the impact.
A Windsor woman wants to see this indoor water park change the way it's handling a new weight limit on one of its slides. Adventure Bay's Python slide carries multiple people in a tube down a winding path, dumping them into a pool of water. Jessica Cameron and her son went up a number of steps to get to the top. Once there, they saw that the weight limit to go on the slide had been cut in half to 300 pounds. In order to go down, you now have to be weighed, and the screen that shows your weight faces the lifeguard. Because Cameron and her son were over that weight limit, they couldn't go down together, so he went with another lifeguard.
I felt embarrassed. I felt like it was intrusive to me.
Cameron says that she's all for safety and rules, but thinks that there needs to be a better way to go about this. She teaches middle school girls, and so she thinks about how a moment like this could really impact them.
In 2024, I think that we need to be more sensitive towards people, towards mental health and body issues and all of these things. So while my skin is tough and I can handle that sort of thing, I don't know that everybody can, and I don't want them to have to go through that.
In an email, a spokesperson for the body that regulates these slides said there were 2 recent incidents where riders fell off the tube. The authority ordered the weight limit to be temporarily lowered until an engineering assessment and a test are done to confirm a total upper weight limit. Another inspection will be done soon. The City of Windsor owns the water park. It said in an email that the safety of guests is their top priority. It says there's signs telling people of the scale and weight change at multiple spots, even before they get to the top of the ride. But Cameron says there weren't any. The city added that the scale it had originally ordered, which weighs multiple people at a time and flashes a red or green light, hasn't come in yet. This one, it says, is used in the amusement industry. One expert says that weighing people in this type of environment can be difficult for some. It can also trigger body image issues.
It brings attention to people in ways that they're not expecting it about the impacts of their weight on their daily life. Don't develop something and make it publicly available if it can't hold various types of weights and high amounts of weight, just because we know that people are going to use them. Are going to comment all different types of body shapes and sizes.
As for Cameron, she's just hoping organizations can find better ways of creating inclusive environments.
It's a huge step at my age, after having kids, to want to put on a bathing suit. Everybody deserves to feel respected and feel like they can go and do things in their own body the way they are right now.
Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
For the last little while, we've been telling you about Trump's threat of a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods. It's part of the president-elect's ultimatum for Canada to stop drugs and migrants from crossing the border into the United States. CBC's Jason Vio takes a look at Windsor's role as a border city.
Before even taking off, as Donald Trump's talk of tariffs and tightening the border is generating some discussion on this side of the border here in Canada, and that's caused a renewed push for a request and a demand for up to 3,000 more Canada Border Services Agency workers right across the country. Here in Windsor, the union that represents those workers say we could use about 100 more officers, especially as we get closer to opening the Gordie Howe International Bridge. There are also calls to give CBSA more powers at the border for things like seizing certain types of contraband and even bringing back sniffer dogs to help detect illegal activity. Those are all things Windsor West MP Brian Massey says he's been attempting to get done for years.
It's rather ironic and actually sad that, Donald Trump is proving the case that I have made for many years to be true. It's actually rather disturbing, quite frankly, that it's taking this to actually get the action that's required.
The union that represents CBSA officers says more guns, drugs, and other contraband is getting into this country more frequently because of a lack of resources.
And a lot of our ports of entry, our members really just spend a lot of time watching things and people go through that they wish they could interview, that they wish they could search, that they really can't anymore.
Meanwhile, Windsor-Tecumseh Liberal MP Eric Kuzmarczyk says he's having conversations with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Public Safety, echoing the need for more border resources in regions like Windsor, but he couldn't say when that may happen or how many resources may be coming.
We'll see a strengthening of those resources, and I'm confident in that. It's now important to have those conversations with law enforcement agencies. They are the experts. They understand what we need and where it needs to be deployed.
And once the Gordie Howe International Bridge opens late next year just west of here, that too will be equipped with more CBSA officers and the technology to detect things that shouldn't be crossing the border. But the union that represents those workers says they hope that technology doesn't continue replacing the officers at the border. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
Colette Kennedy joins us now for a quick look at weather. Colette, it's been cold all day, so how's it looking into the evening?
Yes, I prefer to call it crisp because
Yes,
I feel like that
it
just
sounds
makes
nicer.
it elevates it a little bit, right? Yeah, it is crisp. It is cool. -2 degrees currently, and a few light flurries, at least in the area that we're experiencing. This is mostly an event for the evening hours. Through the overnight, we're still going to hold a cloud cover. We're actually going to find those winds will ease a bit through the night, but guess what? They'll be back again tomorrow, driving in here and picking up to southwest 30 to 50, I'd say at times closer to 60 kilometers an hour, but -5, flurries ending through the overnight, feeling like -11, and then with the system moving through tomorrow, it might just clip us with a few flurries in the morning hours. I'll have more details on that coming up.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you again soon, Colette.
Okay.
Up next, a Tecumseh man is building intricate doll houses and tiny furniture right out of his home. And his masterpieces are making a big impact on the children who receive them. They're actually being donated to sick children to bring them some joy. Take a look.
My name is Vincent Giannotti, and today we're going to be talking about doll houses, which are unique, one of a kind that I build. My grandchildren inspired me, and that and neighborhood kids who have received one, they were just unbelievably attracted to them, doing things with them right away. I figured, you know what? I've been building these doll houses. These young, healthy girls are just loving it. So I figured I'm gonna build them for sick kids. They could use a boost. They can pick them up, make them smile. My work is well worth doing it. Just to see them smile and take their minds off of their sicknesses. And it makes me feel good. Any happiness and joy that you can bring them is a blessing. They forget about their sickness. They're playing like with their kids. It's a thing of beauty, really. And I'm not afraid to tackle any project. It doesn't matter how big or how small. And you know, sometimes people say, well, it's a little dollhouse, but they all take time, and the intricacies of them in the detail. When you take a little chair and you start looking at how many pieces go into making that chair, you know, there's 13 pieces for one chair. Most houses take between 110 to 150 man hours. The one in the other room that we saw, the large one, you're looking at about 200 and change. The challenging part is making the roof, the angles look good, and then putting the stained glass. It all takes time. It's very time consuming, but when you're done, you look back and say, I like that. You know, this is 31. I just finished it last night. I still have quite a few to bank. Now that Christmas is coming, even more so, because there's a lot of sick kids. I'm gonna keep doing them as long as my health holds up, because, you know, I've got my issues as well. This is a wonderful outlet, keeps my mind occupied, and I know it's going for a great cause, so I'm quite happy building. My grandchildren, they give me their ideas too, and I'll say, you know what, I like that, and we'll build it, and then they give their blessing, of course, you know.
What a lovely way to spread some happiness. And speaking of bringing joy to people, superstar Taylor Swift is wrapping up her tour with 3 concerts in Vancouver, the first of which is tonight. And her appearances mean a lot to millions of fans and to several charities as well. They've seen big increases to their bottom lines thanks to the massive demand for tickets. The CBC's Magda Gabrisalesa explains.
It's me. Hi.
As Taylor Swift's Eras Tour moves from Toronto to Vancouver, charities across the country are raising money while making dreams come true.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like going to Taylor Swift, like one of the best concerts ever.
Noah Dickens and his mom are among members of Campfire Circle that got the chance to see Swift on stage in Toronto. The charity that supports those affected by childhood cancer received 20 tickets from a donor family. 2 pairs were raffled off, raising $100,000.
The fun that these kids have, it really makes them forget the pain and all that chemo.
A Vancouver-based hospital foundation was given a suite for one of Swift's upcoming shows. Up for auction at its gala, the winning bid pulled in $320,000.
I had never seen anything quite like this. The level of competition, the level of pushing the number up.
This auctioneer has watched this play out with a number of Canadian charities.
100, 200, 300%, 500%, 900% overvalue. You're talking game-changing revenue for these charities.
That's true for Lake Trail Community Education Society in BC. It runs a food pantry, a gardening program, and after-school activities. A raffle for 2 tickets and a party raised more than $26,000.
For our organization, a really good fundraiser is like $400. $400. And so to go from $400 to $26,000 as one fundraiser, like that's incredible.
And it was all her daughter's idea. The pair had 2 extra tickets for this Saturday's show.
I didn't want to scalp them. I wanted to do something good and really honor the spirit of Taylor Swift.
It's a move the pop superstar would likely approve of. Magda Gabrisalesa, CBC News, Toronto.
A drama series revolving around a Canadian icon debuts today. The icon? Maple syrup. CBC's Eli Glasner takes a look at how it made it to the screen.
When it comes to Canadian crime stories, it's tough to top Quebec's 2012 maple syrup heist.
The warehouse that was robbed holds enough maple syrup to fill nearly 2 Olympic-sized pools.
Hey! Get your hands off my trees. You're spilling my money.
Now the inspiration for an Amazon TV series starring Texas-born Margot Martindale.
If I don't get every drop out of my trees, I'll go broke.
I did do a lot of work on trying to sound Canadian. Not French Canadian, because I could never do that.
It's okay. There are no cameras and only one security guard.
Quebec superstar Guillaume Say helped recruit local talent.
It's the first time, I think, that a Hollywood production tells a story about Quebec and hire real Quebec actors, shooting in Quebec.
While the show is a U.S.-Canada co-production, American co-creators are in charge.
My sister happened to marry a Canadian.
Yeah.
I was at a Christmas party with my family, and my brother-in-law, making conversation, said, hey, have you ever heard of the Great Maple Syrup Heist? And I said, no, but please tell me everything about it.
This filmmaker isn't surprised Americans got it made.
I know too often that we need American money in order to fund the Canadian projects.
She says for a show to compete globally, Canadian funding doesn't cut it.
Whenever we speak to Canadian broadcasters, they can only come in for a percentage that's pretty low. And so they don't have the funds to make the projects that we want to, for it to look how we want it to look, right?
We rob them blind. Partner? Partner.
And the sticky arrives at a sticky time for the industry.
It's kind of a step in the process, right? Having more Canadian contribution on the creative side of it.
What kind of obligations are these streaming platforms under right now?
Well, that's the point, is there aren't any.
But those obligations, including for more Canadian creatives, are coming. With the broadcast regulator currently defining what kind of Canadian content streamers will be forced to fund, the Quebec crime caper could be a sign of things to come. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's take a live look outside there. It's going to be another cold one tonight, -4 into the evening with a wind chill of -9 and a chance of flurries as well. Colette will be back later on in the program with a closer look at what to expect over the weekend. But first, when we come back, we will have national news for you as well. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has recalled another batch of cucumbers in less than a week due to salmonella exposure. It's the latest in a series of food recalls. Just 3 days ago, it also recalled a sweet kale chopped salad kit. Jennifer Yoon looks at why there have been so many recalls in the past few weeks.
Carrots, cucumbers, and sweet kale salad. At some point over the past few weeks, all of these items have been recalled. The fear, risk of contamination from things like salmonella or E. coli. So why does this keep happening?
Sometimes we forget that food comes from farms and food comes from nature.
Food can get contaminated in all kinds of ways while it's being processed like this, or in the field in areas close to manure. Recalls tend to ramp up in the winter as we rely on imports.
Food produced in Canada is very safe, but we don't make a lot of cucumbers in December in Canada. So we do have to rely on imported fresh veggies in Canada. And we do tend to see a couple more outbreaks associated with those imported products.
But while it may feel to some like there are more recalls this year, that's just not the case.
There's some more consumer awareness, or they're being shared on social media, where we're not seeing an increase in food recalls right now.
I'm thinking that it's heightened awareness and more rigorous testing.
And some even say more recalls would actually reflect a better detection system.
Because that means that those things are getting caught before they make people sick.
Most of the time in Canada, companies voluntarily recall the food after they conduct their tests. Preventing more outbreaks could involve new decontamination methods, as well as cracking down on delinquent companies.
Some people suggest that litigation, like in the US, they're really strict now. They're actually calling for prosecutions of CEOs. We haven't got that far in Canada.
It's also important to assess your own risk. Be aware that some products have a higher risk of contamination. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Courier companies are struggling with a backlog of parcels resulting from the Canada Post strike. So UPS and Purolator have put the brakes on some shipments right in the middle of the holiday buying season. The CBC's Sam Sampson has the details.
To show off her coloring products, Chantal Laverne likes to stay in the lines, but the latest development in Canada Post's strike has made things a bit messy.
This feels like we get ambushed. Like small businesses, it's like we always have to be like problem solving.
UPS and Purolator are so swamped with deliveries, they've paused some shipments this week to try to play catch up. They're blaming bad weather and the ongoing strike at Canada Post for the backlog. The companies say they now have to prioritize critical shipments. To do that, they're not accepting any parcels from third-party platforms, basically middlemen couriers. So, say you bought a holiday gift from a small online business. Normally, it might need a smaller courier to get it to UPS, for example, which would then deliver it to your home. But now, UPS is not accepting that initial delivery, meaning your parcel is not going anywhere.
These other carriers can't handle what we handle.
The union says this is only proof that the country needs its postal crown corporation.
We have an ability to get to places that other carriers don't, and we have infrastructure that gets it there.
Canada Post, which owns Purolator, is now mulling over the union's latest proposal. The two parties are not negotiating at the table, but through a federal mediator. Canadians are still getting their coloring gear, just in a different way. Laverne says she's using an aggregate company to hook her up with even smaller couriers to fill the gap, but that's not possible for every shipment.
I've had some in like northern Alberta, places that are a little more remote, a little bit out, because, you know, DHL or Canpar, they don't go everywhere.
Marking another snag in an already busy holiday season. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
Before we go to break, I want to tell you that Canada's unemployment rate has jumped to 6.8% in November. That is up from 6.5% the month before. Outside pandemic closure months, that is the highest in almost 8 years. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy will join us right after the break with more on your weather. Colette Kennedy is back for more weather. Colette, lead us into the weekend.
Okay, here we go, and we're going on a bit of a ride, Katerina. Some ups and downs, but we're used to that with our weather pattern. So current temperatures you see below freezing, but part of the change is going to be that we will have milder air coming in, especially as we go into Sunday. So -2 right now, Sarnia at -1. We factor in the winds, which, as you know, have been strong much of the time for the last few days, and they'll pick up again tomorrow afternoon, but still blowing tonight. Feeling like -9, -9 too, in terms of how you're feeling there towards Chatham-Kent, with those winds gusting over 40 kilometers an hour. But we're still going to have times where they're going to be gusting over 50. And in fact, through tomorrow, at times perhaps once this next system comes in, we'll get into a situation into the later afternoon and evening where they're over 60. So that's what you have to look forward to. And you can see even a little bit further to the east along the shores, north shores of Lake Erie, that we get into some of those gusts over 70 kilometers an hour. A few flurries, not anything really to write home about, but a few flurries through these evening hours, and cloud cover overnight. And then I'll show you what's going to happen with this system coming in. And because it's the weekend, if anyone is traveling, there are still lake effect snows. A break came to London, and now some snow returning. Those will ease, but it's then this next round that comes with this next system is going to push those totals up. So snow squall warning areas, another 10 to 25 centimeters plus possible. It's going to be looking good for the ski hills for those of you winter weather sport enthusiasts. But here's what I want to kind of focus in on for you. So this is tomorrow. I've stopped it at 10, kind of very close, skimming by Lake St. Clair, where we could see a dusting or at least some light flurries, but most of it stays north and stays east. So if you're looking at your apps and it's just showing you some cloud cover, yes, that's possible. But in my forecast, I'm putting in a little glancing blow for some flurries there, kind of through the morning hours. Again, I'm not here expecting accumulations. And then we'll find the temperature rising, so it's very, very wet stuff, whatever's flowing anywhere in Ontario, and in fact turning over to some rainfall eventually as the temperature rises into Sunday. And then a rain system comes in the beginning of next week. Temperatures overnight tonight, we are going to slide to -4 to -5, feeling like we're around -10. The winds back off. That's why it's just to -10 and not quite as cool as the wind chill this morning. But then those winds pick up again tomorrow. 3 degrees for the high. Look at that. 7 by Sunday. Monday, rain, and 9. There it is.
It seems to always be a roller coaster in Windsor, Essex. Thanks so much, Colette. And thanks to you all for watching. We'll see you back on Monday.
Good night.